Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks a lot for joining this particular session. And if any one of you can confirm that you guys are able to hear me, just put it in the chat box. That would be great. Okay, thanks a lot, Vaishnav. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So, as I said, welcome to the session, and this is, I think, a very important session of this, the IXI event that we are having. So, first of all, I would like to thank UNCEFT and IXI for conducting such an amazing event for startups and different communities that revolve around the startup world. And it's great to see it's happening online, so it's different. But yes, I'm really happy to be in this event and really happy to be a part of this event. My name is Mamta, and I'm the co-founder and mentor at PrepBytes. So we are one of the accelerated startups by UNCEFT, and it's an honor to have this panel discussion. So the discussion that we are going to have is on role of women in evolving edtech micro communities. So if we see this particular topic, I have got some really amazing women who are doing great in the field of education, not necessarily edtech, but in the field of education. And they are doing amazing in different field of education. So generally when we think of edtech, we generally think of online courses or things around that. But I have got ladies who are in different genres, who are there working in different parts of the world, and they are contributing to the society, giving back to the society. Needless to say, they are really really successful in their journey. They have an amazing career, and they are giving back, they're giving it back to the society. So I'll introduce my first speaker, who is also a friend of mine, and she was actually my roommate in college. And I'm really proud to have this discussion with her, and I'm really happy as well. So her name is Shreya. So Shreya did her engineering from electrical engineering from an IIT in Jaipur. She then went on to do her master's from ISU France, and right now she is pursuing her PhD from Tohoku University, Japan. I'm really sorry, Shreya, if I didn't pronounce the name really well. I'm not good with that. But thanks a lot for joining in. Thanks a lot for being with us for this particular discussion. I know the time zones are different, but she's still here. Thanks a lot, Shreya. And I'll introduce the second speaker that we have for the evening. She's Meeta. And as I said, she's doing an amazing work of, bringing the women back in their professional jobs. So she is the founder of Worksera, which is hitting, I'll say, which is doing two tasks in one go. The first one is that, as I said, she's bringing the women who were out of their career due to one or the other reasons. She's bringing them back. Secondly, she made remote working fashionable even before lockdown. So we believed in remote working when the lockdown happened and due to the pandemic, and she was a big supporter of remote working even before that. So thanks a lot, Meeta, for joining us. And one thing I forgot to say, that she has been product manager for 10 years, and she was a techie. Again, a very successful example of a very successful career. Thanks a lot, Meeta, for joining us. And
thanks.
Yeah, have a great discussion. Thank you so much. So we have the third speaker with us. I hope she has joined. She was facing a bit of issue with the joining, but let's see if she has joined. So I'll just introduce you guys to her. So she's Ritika, again a college senior of mine. So we guys come from same college, and girls in my college are really amazing. This is an example. So she's again a senior, and she has traveled 36 countries, 4 continents. Like, I can't imagine how is that even possible. Okay, she has joined. So right now she is the founder of FreeWords, which helps us get different kind of education, or basically she helps people learn through travel experiences and through different kind of experiences. And she's going beyond the education that we get in school, and we are supposed to get basically the conventional education that is out there. And as I said, that she has worked with really amazing brands like Tata, Kellogg's. She has worked with several social ventures in Africa and India, and finally she is taking up her entrepreneurship journey with FreeWords. So I'll say, what I have told about these women is still very less. They have done so many amazing things in their life. So what I'll do is that I'll just give it up to them to introduce their journey, how their journey has been, and how they came up to become what they are, and how they're giving back to the society. So I think we can start with you, Shreya.
Hi. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. It's really a privilege to be part of this panel and to talk on this platform. So as Mamta already introduced, I actually am from the coal capital of India, Dhanbad, which is in Jharkhand, and I did my bachelor's in electrical and electronics engineering at NIT Jamshedpur. And while growing up, I was very inspired by Dr. Kalpana Chawla, and I wanted to follow her footsteps. So, but I was not sure how to. So, I looked on for opportunities, and then I went on to do my master's in space technology from France. And currently, I worked for a while in Russia, and currently, I'm doing my PhD in Japan. And as part of my PhD, I'm in Germany right now. So, yeah, a lot of places. And other than my studies and research, I do a lot of mentorship and space outreach activities and talks to basically spread awareness among the younger generation so that they don't face the same problem that I faced while I wanted to follow this path.
That's great. That's great. Thanks a lot, Shreya. I think you can also share the number of countries you have visited. That must be interesting because I've seen your Instagram pics. You are all over the world. So, do you, if you remember that data?
Much less than Ms. Barua, but yeah, 20.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So, Ritika, if you can just tell us about your amazing journey.
Hi, Mamta. Hi, Shreya, and hi, Meeta. And thank you, everyone, for having me here. I'm very glad to be a part of this, amazing panel. About me, I was born and brought up in Assam, in Guwahati. And I studied in KV for 12 years, exposed me to people from different parts of India as well. So I always had this urge to, know about this world. I have this one life, so I need to experience as much as possible. But like a typical Indian, did my engineering and MBA from an NIT and then an IIM. I also went to Sweden, Jönköping International Business School. And I also went to Harvard Business School just to educate myself about the business world because that's what I was interested in. Apart from that, like you said already, I've traveled to 36 countries. It's not even, 30% of the world. So there's still a lot to discover. But yeah, I always had an interest in backpacking, going to new cultures and meeting new people and learning something new about the world. So that's what led me to this journey and I made it possible. And I feel when I look back, I joined the professional world in 2013. And by 2019, I was the general manager for Kellogg Tolaram, South Africa. So I was handling the country at a very young age. And I felt that it happened because I had traveled so much and they could see me as a bridge between the African, Indian and Danish and US cultures. And that's why I could grow in my career as well that way. And that's why I realized that we need much more than education. And it brings me joy to learn. Learning is not boring for me. And that's what led me to, bring Freebirds to the world. And that's why I thought if we can have a community of people who can discover each other, learn from experiences, it would be making the world a little bit better than what it is. So yeah, that's about me. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ritika. You are still being humble because we always feel that how one can do so many things in such a short span of time. So I think it's really amazing. So let's go to Meeta. So Meeta, please continue.
Yeah, thanks, Mamta, for having me here today. And thanks for your kind words for introducing me and Worksera, the venture that I run. Worksera is a 3-year-old startup, and the idea behind Worksera is how my own, professional career panned out. So I was into development when I got married to an army officer, and I had to make a choice. Either I can move with him every 2 years to a new location, or I could pursue my career. So then I thought, why don't I get the best of both the worlds? Why don't I keep working where I can still move with him to the remotest locations in India? So then I started my remote working career or a freelancing career, and switched on from development to product management, and worked with a lot of startups. In US and Australia, and I learned so much about remote working. And I realized that in India, women especially face so much of problem, continuing with their career. And I had all these women around me who were facing the same issue. and I could not, find a solution in India for them. Then, I thought of launching a platform which helps women start their remote working journeys. So in three years of time, Worksera has seen, a lot of progress. And we were initially incubated at IIM Bangalore as part of the Women Startup Program that they were running. And after that, we got support from Government of Karnataka. We got selected in their Elevate program and got funds to build our platform. So yeah, it has been an amazing journey, and we're working with a lot of women and supporting them to start their remote careers. And also we work with a lot of companies and startups and corporates and enable them to hire virtual assistants, virtual managers, or even virtual teams to get their work done.
Okay, that's great. You're doing a really amazing job, Meeta. Thanks a lot. And one thing you missed, which was a connection between us, is that you were part of Google Launchpad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So as you see that all of us somewhere have, we got an opportunity to have really right education. We were able to do good in our career because of certain education. And, at some of the other places, the places you do your schooling from, the places you do your college from, it matters a lot. So how do you think in your journey, wherever you are, having the education, the right set of education has affected where you are? Or maybe, I'm not saying, you might also feel at a certain point that, okay, this education that I had was not right. If maybe I would have gone to this school, or just giving you a small example, if I would have gone to this particular place, I would have, done something really better. So it could be in both the places. Maybe you got really right education and you're really proud of that. And that has helped you become what you are today. And maybe it could be otherwise as well. So if you can share us those, share us how basically education has helped you become what you are today. So we can start with Meeta.
Sure, Mamta. So definitely, I feel that I had the right background, right education to, do what I am doing today. Especially my training in IT, really helped me. So, when I thought of launching a venture, I think my tech skills really helped me, especially when it came to, building an MVP and launching it faster, because, I was a sole founder. I was a single founder, and I had initially I had nobody to to back up on. But my tech skills really helped me to especially start a tech startup and move really fast in my journey. So I think the right education is very important, and luckily for me, it has kind of matched with what I'm doing today.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Shreya, you can share your views.
Okay. In my opinion, more than the right education, it's the right to education. So at a very young age, like from the place where I come from, the community is very backward. And I saw families where they sent their sons to school, but the daughters would stay at home and work. So at a very young age, I realized like I was privileged to be going to school as a girl, and I made a decision that I'll not let my education go in vain. Doesn't matter which path I take. So I did my best, topped in board exams and everything, but I was still unsure what is the right path to take. As a typical Indian, I did my engineering, which was really good, and it gave me a lot of exposure. Although I realized that it was inadequate, not enough for me to to pursue my dreams on space technology. So I started looking for resources and information online, and I did some online courses during my graduation. So I think it's more important about the right to education, because it gives you the access to the to different kind of information, to different kind of resources, so that you can take your own decisions and you know what is right and wrong for you. So even now, I don't know if I'm in the right education, but I know that I'll make my path. I have lots of plans of setting up startups or things like that, but I know like I have the right resources. And if I don't have the education at all, then I don't know, like there's no way I can take some decision by myself.
Right, that's great. That's great. By the way, if you plan to have a startup, you can come to Doing Stuff Accelerated. They're really good. I think they'll award me for this publicity though. Anyways, so Ritika, if you can share your views on this.
Yeah, so I don't know how to measure right education, but I would say if I look back into my journey or my friend's journey also, more than the right school or the right kind of education, the right teachers mattered a lot.
Right.
Like I remember good teachers more than the content of the book or the kind of school that was. I have had professors in IIM who were better than professors at Harvard. So it is just about the teachers, and it's also, I feel, a lot about the students. What are you interested in? Are you willing to learn? So if there's a good combination of a good teacher and a good student, that's when right education happens. And I would say that I think you all would know last year government launched a new policy in education, and I personally think it's a step in the right direction, because when I was studying science and I felt that, I want to learn economics as well, or I want to learn accounting as well, but I couldn't because I'm a science student. I'm not allowed to learn multidisciplinary courses. I think that was a restriction during our times, which will not be a restriction for the generations ahead. Vocational training, experiential learning is a lot more on focus. So it's not about just rote learning and, learning math science that we all do, but also learning something hands-on, learning something in the real world. Because what happens with a lot of us is that whatever we learn, when we come to the real world and try to apply it, there is so much distance that you need to start from scratch again. It's the basics that help, but a lot of other things don't. So I would say the combination of the right teacher, right student, and right policies will definitely lead to better education. So if anybody who's watching this is, thinking what's right education for me, look for what interests you, what makes you happy, what makes you want to learn more for those courses, and try and find out a little bit about who's teaching and connect with those people. I think that's what helps us a lot in our journeys.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. So I think right teacher is one thing that you mentioned. Absolutely correct there. Like we have come across so many teachers in our life, but maybe one statement or something that our teacher said motivated us to a great extent. They end up becoming our mentors. Even now, if we have something, we go back to them. And Shreya, as you mentioned, this that right to education. This is, I think, pretty much right thing you mentioned is that right to education, which is a basic right that everyone should have. But unfortunately, we are the privileged ones to have that sort of right. But even there's so many who don't even get to go to the school. And since things are coming online, how do you think we can contribute it to those section of the society, or to those kids? How we can contribute and ensure that they get the right to education? So yeah, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Definitely, that's one major revolution, I would say, that's happening currently with internet access everywhere, and then there's also like edtech platforms everywhere, irrespective of your time schedule or geographical boundaries. You still have access to quality content and quality like information that can help you to learn different things, and also like the micro communities. So you don't have to like have interest in science or social sciences and everything, but you can have interest in one niche area and you can develop that by these platforms. But one thing is also there is a lack in what Ritika mentioned was learning by doing, or doing some practicals, which is still a bit of a hindrance in edtech platforms. So that's something that has to be worked upon and expanded on.
Great, sure. So Ritika, I have next question from you. So the general idea of edtech, is that whenever you talk of edtech, the perception that comes up is an online course that might be teaching math, science, coding, like everyone is learning at nowadays. And you have always been this non-conventional person. Like if the world is going this way, you'll be going that way. That's what we know about you. Anyway, so how do you think in such era where there's so much of pressure to do, for coding and for rest of the things, for math, science. How did you come up with this idea of learning through experiences? Or I know, I see you do several, cultural immersions as well. You are, one can just sit and follow Freebirds and get to know about so much about different kind of cultures. So this is pretty much different from rest of the maybe edtech startups are doing. So how did you come up with this idea? You talked a bit about this in your, about this in your introduction, but I would like to know more about why are you doing this, and how did you come up with this particular idea?
Right. Why do something that everybody is doing, right? Yeah, but jokes apart, I mean, I really felt that was a need gap. The whole world is, not the whole world, but especially the East Asian part of the world is really running after jobs, careers, and people are living these stressed out lives. And I remember when I was even in Nigeria or Mumbai, my friends would always complain the job is boring. They would wait for the weekends to go out and party. That's the life that has become. And a human life is meant to be so much more than that. And I never felt that in my job. And I always enjoyed it because, number one, I had a peer network which was very diverse. I had creative people in my network. I was actually friends with local people and didn't just hang around with, the people from India. And I met people from all of these different genres of work as well as geography. And that enriched my knowledge and made me apply things differently in my job as well, It was not just personal development, it helped me in my skills. I mean, one of the important things about marketing is knowing about consumer insights. And when I digged deep, I could build $100 million brand in a year from launch to, making that much revenue just because I had that much knowledge about the local people out there, the consumption behavior out there, and I could apply it. So that's when I realized that, okay, so I'll give you one example. When I reached Nigeria, one thing I always do is that whenever I get free time, I volunteer or I involve myself into projects of communities that are there, okay? So when I reached Nigeria, first of all, it was unsafe. Secondly, when I wanted to volunteer somewhere, I didn't know how to. I Googled, I couldn't find anything. Then later, I found a blog which a person had written, and he had started this company called Poverty Stops Here. And then I collaborated with him, and we ended up working in a startup together in Africa where we taught kids from all over Africa on different projects. So I took a project management course, he took a leadership course, and we did that online. So I realized that when I went to South Africa, the same cycle repeated. So I realized that there's no one platform where, if I'm a lifelong learner, I want to just go and learn something new. There is no platform like that where I can connect with interesting people and learn about these things. So that's when I decided to create this. And interestingly, you mentioned cultural immersion. Initially, I thought it will be, people who are just interested in having some fun would come here. But now schools are also focusing on it. There are schools that come to cultural immersion. So kids come to learn geography in a practical way. When they are learning about Germany, they're actually meeting German people and learning from them, right? We did things like a workshop on the science of origami. So if you are using origami, it's not just something like, when we were growing up, we used to think that art is something that is to show others, I made this amazing art piece. But art also leads to mindfulness. It leads to understanding of your own, a psyche as well as expanding your creativity. So we took art courses for this government organization called Innovation Lab, where kids were taught to do something with their hands, be mindful, and learn what's the science behind it. So these kind of unique courses is what we are creating for, people. So so that's why I enjoy it. First of all, I love creating these things, working with these kind of people. And secondly, the benefit it gives to people and the joy I see and the learning that I see, it keeps me going. So that's why I started Freebirds, and that's what keeps me going on Freebirds as well.
That's great. That's great. So another thing that you said is that you have such a, diverse, I'll say, skill set in your peers, or, interest in your peers, that I remember, I have seen the website and actually went into one of the, I'll say, no tools, some, creativity web, I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact name, but it was some sort of creativity using pen and paper and things like that. I'm sure there must be a name for this, but I saw that it's taken by one of the connections that you have. So, the other benefit benefit that you're doing is also for people who are in their jobs. They have some passion, but you are giving them a reason to continue that passion by giving others that sort of, I'll say, maybe, a classes and workshops. So if you can talk about how you get, connect to those people. Maybe someone is good at painting, someone is good at craft and things like that. So how are you connecting to those people? And this is a good opportunity for them as well to come back and keep their passion alive. So was this in your mind that I am giving benefit to the other section as well, not just the ones who are learning, but also the ones who are taking such a workshop? So that was there in your mind, or it happened eventually?
It was there in the mind from the beginning, because if it wasn't there, then I wouldn't create a platform where people can do their workshops and others can attend. I would have created all the workshops and put it there as a product. That's why I created the platform. This was the intent from the beginning, because I also realized, people are so skilled and they have so many diverse skills. It's not just me. I know you, Mamta, as well, Shreya, and all of us. I think the one that you're speaking about is by this girl called Nutan from our college as well.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you one interesting thing. Till now on Freebirds, we have not spent even 1 penny on marketing.
Okay.
And, it has grown to a 2,000 member community by itself, all organic, because people are actually benefiting out of it and loving what they do. So one of the ladies, she attended the cultural immersion, and then she reached out to me, and then she said that, see, I used to work. Now I'm a housewife and I'm not allowed to work. And it's not about earning, but I want to do something with it, right? And I said, okay, what do you like to do? And she said, I like crafts. I make handmade cards. So I said, okay, let's move on from handmade cards to a little bit more. Let's think of other DIY objects. Can we create workshops on it? So she created. Now, because people are attending it, it keeps her going. Similarly for Nutan, she goes to work, comes back home. Now she wants to meet people who are interested in the craft she does, which is apart from her work. She wants that life. Now, through this platform, she can meet new people, she can teach others, she can learn from others. So it benefits her as well. Similarly, it has happened with another lady who was, somehow it's been women mostly, and I'm loving it. But yeah, another lady who was very passionate about being vegan. And she was, she used to tell me that being vegan doesn't mean you have to sacrifice anything. You can make tasty food by being vegan also, and there are health benefits to it. So I said, okay, let's figure out a workshop around it, a module around it. So now she works in Mahindra as a marketing manager, and then during her free time, she does these vegan courses with people who want to turn vegan, and she loves those interactions. So yeah, so this was always in the mind, and that's how both the parties, people who are giving and people who are receiving, are benefiting.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, yeah. So I think my next question is pretty much on the same lines with you, Meeta. Is that many of us, especially when you're a woman, you have to leave your job due to one or the other family reasons. We are pretty much aware of that, and you're helping those women make a comeback in their career. But now there is one thing that I see over here is that you are majorly into, when we think of some tech roles, or even let's say if it's a not very some non-tech role as well, the way softwares are changing, the way tech is changing. So let's say even if someone is out from this for an year or two, sometimes, the way tech is evolving so rapidly, things change really fast. So when you get these women into your, onto your platform, how do you ensure that they're having the right skill set? They might be really, working, doing really amazing job 2 years back. They might be all updated, but just because they had some sort of gap, they're not updated. So do you also help them, stay updated with the latest tech and ensure that they're having all these skill set that's being required in the market right now?
Yeah, Mamta. So definitely I agree with you. Whenever there is a gap, and especially for tech roles, in 2 or 3 years, the paradigm completely changes. And if you're out of the scenario, then it is a very, very difficult thing to, get back to work and also, learn the things that you have missed out. So one thing I always advise women is whenever you're thinking of taking a break from work, don't take a full 100% break, So, because remote working allows you and freelancing allows you to actually work with flexibility in the time frame that suits you. So you can, shift maybe from a full-time to a part-time job, or maybe you can, take an assignment like, working only a couple of hours a day, something like that, which actually enables you to be in touch with the things that you were working on and enables you to continue working. Actually, it helps. And for those who have actually taken a break and who want to come back at Worksera, we have a free mentoring facility for them. So what we do is we try to understand what is the skill they have and how we can take it to the market, because in freelancing or remote working, the skills are required are not a 100 1-to-1 match with the industry, right? The freelancing industry has different verticals, whereas the outside world has different verticals. So how we can still apply their skills in the freelancing market, how we can take it to the market. We do a completely free session with them, which we call mentoring session, to understand what is their skill and how she can still work on something like that. And if it requires her to change her skill or something like that, we guide them towards the free sources available which they can avail of, and they can learn those things and then get back to work. That is also one of the things that we do. So in our platform, in our website, it is completely they can book slots for free mentoring with our HR managers, who help them understand what is the skill they have, what is the gap they need to fill, and how they can come back to work.
Okay, I think this is really amazing that you're not just providing them opportunities, you're also mentoring them. So how do you how do you get these mentors work with you, and what is the whole mentorship process? If you can talk a bit more on that.
Yeah, sure. So right now, our core team itself does the mentoring, but we are open to also onboarding mentors who want to do it and who wants to volunteer and help other women, and who are passionate about bringing women back to work, or who are passionate about women empowerment. We definitely are willing to talk to them and onboard them. So it's a completely tech process. We show the mentors on our platform. You can see what is their profile, what matches your requirement, and then you can see what are the slots available and book one. So it's a completely online process which anybody can avail of. Yeah.
Okay, that's really amazing. Okay, so coming back to you, Shreya. So in college also, as you said that you were I know that the you talked about Kalpana Chawla. So since I know you were interested in space. So and eventually you you crafted a journey for yourself. So I saw you did the you were just always looking out for opportunities. You were looking out for right set of people, right set of mentor. So you were quite aware. So what happens is that the awareness has to meet the talent. Sometimes you might have the right talent, but just because you were not aware, you miss that sort of opportunities. And like we said it so many times in this discussion, like a typical engineer, typical Indian, we did engineering because we most of us come from tier 2, tier 3 cities, and there it is like 12th ke baad to you have to do engineering or medical. Actually there are two options, engineering and medical. So that's how it is. But there are when we come out and we start working, that is when we realize that, oh my god, there are so many opportunities, there are so many fields, and we didn't even know about it. Maybe if I knew about it when I was in 12th, I might have, or maybe somewhere I might have chosen that option, and my interest lies over there. And my question to you, Shreya, is that and I know that you are taking so much of, I'll say, workshops for this, educating people about space and all the career opportunities that lies out there. So you are doing so much of that, but alone you cannot just do, you cannot educate so many people. So how do you think you can create a chain in which maybe you educate a community, which in turn, educates other set of community, just to create awareness, just to create an awareness that, okay, these are the fields that exist if you want to go ahead and pursue your career in that. So what's the plan, and how do you plan to do it?
Yeah, so definitely awareness is a big factor. You cannot become something or someone that you don't see or have heard about. So definitely that was one major issue for me while growing up. All I knew was Dr. Kalpana Chawla and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, but I didn't have any access to them. So what I do is, like, mostly it's on all voluntary basis currently. I team up with different organizations, space organizations and space outreach bodies, and but these are all in the main cities like in Bangalore or Delhi. So what I try to do is try to reach, expand their reach to smaller towns or tier 2 and 3 cities, and so that they can go to these smaller towns and conduct workshops, or distribute kits, or give some talks on what are the different career opportunities in this field, and definitely like trying to partner with the different schools so that these schools can allow some space related courses or workshops by the organizations that I work with. And I try to do some mentoring like talks and mentor sessions so that whoever wants to follow this, they can just reach to me like really easily. I don't like I never tell them like, no, I cannot help you. If I cannot help them, I put them in contact with someone who I know in my network who is working in that particular field. So that's how I try to do, and yeah, like basically trying to be accessible to them and to try to guide them and also empower the different organizations that also has the same vision as me, and so that they can reach out to community that I have grown up from.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So next, I want to discuss with you, Meeta. So what I see about Workzera is that you help. There are certain tasks that can be done remotely, and as I said that for you, remote work, I think maybe you foresee that something is coming or something sort. You were ready for remote working. So you already were in the field where you were helping companies forming a team and working remotely and getting their tasks done. So so what happens is that first of all, how difficult it was for you to convince them that yes, remote work can be done before the pandemic happened. And second thing is that how do you ensure to meet that demand, because things are working remote, you don't have the employees working with you, they are somewhere remote. And so how do you ensure that if they have enrolled into your platform, they are available when it is required? And how do you ensure, again, the same thing, that they have the right skill set? Because I see you are into, different skill sets that you are helping, companies with. You are forming team very much real time. It's not that the team is working based on how you get the requirement, you are forming the team. So how difficult is this process? And I would like to ask that how, even not now, let's say, in this process, you must have understood that there is a skill gap that's out there, or there is something we can do. So how do you, what is it that you're doing now, and what is it that you plan to do going ahead?
Yeah, so definitely before the lockdown started, people were not so open to remote working, and especially in India, till the people come and sit in front of you, nobody kind of used to trust, and we really used to struggle to tell them that they can be as effective and efficient when they are working from from wherever they are. You just have to give them a chance. So initially it was a tough call, though we got some like-minded people who went ahead and outsourced their work to us. But after the pandemic started, the workforce more or less moved to working from home. Now people understand it really well. So now we don't have to fight that war with them, telling them remote working is equally efficient. So now they are more or less open to outsourcing, and since they have done it themselves in some way or the other for their own workforce, they now also they have this process, and they are more prepared to outsource their work to us. So definitely it has really helped us, and we definitely see that as we go ahead, it is definitely going to grow more and more. So in US, it is said that almost 70% of people, they work in flexible timelines. They work from home whenever they need. In India, we never had this kind of a work culture. At the most, MNCs will allow you one day work from home or something like that. But now I think people are very much aware of how they can still work from home and how they can still be as productive, or even I would say more productive when they're working from home. So yeah, and about the virtual teams, or how do we match the skills with the client requirement? Yeah, so every time it's definitely it's not the same thing which happens. Every project is a new project. Every time the requirements have something different in them. So our platform that we have built is kind of AI powered to match the right skill sets with the requirements, which kind of really helps us to match the right professionals with the right requirement. And also to have a check on the quality, we have a process that we have built it with checklists, which comes in really handy when we are working with virtual teams. So we have worked on projects where we have employed, something like 30 to 40 freelancers on a single project. So initially, we really, struggled when, when initially we were trying to do that. But then we realized that there's quite a bit of requirement when, the companies, especially corporates, are looking at outsourcing bigger chunk of work, for which they need a team, and it cannot be done by one single individual working from home. So then we actually built a process, and we have built a mechanism in our platform, which we call virtual team management system, which enables us to manage all these 40 people together, to enable them to, to work in a streamline and in sync with each other, and deliver the work with quality and timely delivery.
Okay, that's great. So we talked of the challenge that you might have faced from the companies and regarding remote working and convincing them about that. So if I talk about the challenge that you face, not necessarily skill set or something, but when you think of biggest challenge that you faced and you overcome about forming the teams, what was it?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge, initially when I launched the platform, I was not really sure what kind of requirements exist in the market, right? Because I have also myself worked mostly outside India. So initially I just thought that, and also when I looked at the talent pool that I had, it was a diverse talent pool. So people were from different market, and also some of them, as we discussed earlier, some of them had lost touch, some of them wanted to do something new, try something new, or change their fields. So initially it was really difficult to understand what skill sets are in demand, and what skill sets do I have in the pool. So initially it was a little bit of struggle, but eventually I realized that if I cater to some verticals initially, and get my hands set on that and get the talent pool, especially for those verticals, and it will help. So we went on vertical by vertical like that. And though we are still skill agnostic, and we still onboard any women from any background on our platform, but we are working predominantly in few categories, which are mostly content generation, and also data set preparation for AI and ML.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so when I ask these questions, I prepared the notes, which I'm also going to use, and I'll use the learning while in my business as well. So talking about the learning, needless to say, I've learned a lot from all of you today. So Ritika, I would like to ask you, since you travel a lot, I know we have done this so many times, I also see you meeting different communities. So if you have met any community and any learning you have had from that community, which was, or it might be something really eye-opener, you didn't expect that such a small community is doing such a great job, and we all should, learn from it. So anything that you would, you learned, and, we all can learn something from, if you would like to share some instance.
Yeah, definitely. There are actually multiple such instances that come to my mind. So I'll share a couple. I think one of the experiences I had was last year, just before the lockdown. I was going across northeast of India and trying to collect women entrepreneurs together for a boot camp. We are trying to figure out what we can do together. So I was expecting that Guwahati would be a tier 2, tier 3 city, so it would have a lot more women entrepreneurs. But a village called Zero in Arunachal would not have many women entrepreneurs. Maybe there would be communities who would be working on interesting things. I was surprised. We had just put a poster on Facebook, and we had just spread the word around on WhatsApp. And when we reached Zero, almost 20 women entrepreneurs turned up. One of them had coded a tech platform for Northeastern kids from Zero village. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I mean, another lady, she had a startup in weaving. Another one had a startup in farming, and she was doing some organic farming there. And they were doing big businesses, mind you, very good turnovers. So I realized, oh my God, there is a lot of talent in even, beyond the tier 2, tier 3 cities. And people are very entrepreneurial. So, and we had gone to mentor them, right? And I ended up gaining new knowledge and courage from those women. So one lesson I learned in life is that when you mentor someone else, you instead gain new knowledge as well. So mentoring someone is not just for their benefit, but for your benefit as well. So there is a huge, so Meeta, in fact, it is, there is an opportunity in those spaces for you as well. There are a lot of people who would, probably have the skills, who can work with your team as well. So there is, immense talent in our country, and I'm sure across the world as well. Another venture that I came across that, touched my heart as well as I was amazed by them was an organization called Kala Verso in Bhuj. So after the earthquake, when everything was destroyed, most of the people who were involved in art had stopped, performing music or being a part of the tradition because it wasn't earning them money. So there was this one instrument, I remember, I forgot the name, but that instrument is a unique instrument of Gujarat, and it's the only one in the world. And one of the people there there's only one person who can play it, by the way, today, living today. And that person left it and started, driving. He's a truck driver now, and he had to leave his passion. So seeing all this, there is this man called Bharmal Bhai, and he was working at that time in his village, and he quit his job, and he said that, no, the culture of the land cannot die. So he started this trust called Kala Verso, where he rejuvenated this tradition of Rayan, where all the musicians on some weekends in the week get together and talk about the culture and, spread the folk music that's out there. And he has been running it since years now. And, he's managing the funds. The community has grown. There are foreign tourists going and visiting it, and the musicians, instead of being at a restaurant in the side and playing music which nobody listens to, people come to see them there. So that's the kind of recognition they are getting. So one thing I realized, and this is something that big NGOs couldn't do, I guess, but they could. And why could they? And I realized the moral of this story was that responsibility trumps accountability. When you make someone accountable, you are still getting them to work for something else. Whereas if you make someone responsible, they're doing it for themselves. So these two, I think, learnings are what I would like to pass on from my journeys and interactions with this small community. And I think one more thing comes to my mind, so I'll just mention it, is that we did a trip with Freebirds called Unheard Unseen in Dhemaji, Assam. Dhemaji is a small village in Assam, where we did a course for 12 participants on foraging. So when we did the course, the participants, we selected the participants. We had roughly 30 people who applied, and we said that in this Freebirds trip, we will take only 12 people. But we made sure that all the 12 people are curated and diverse, so that when they come there, they're bringing a unique kind of learning to the group as well. So I realized all these diversity initiatives that the companies and the schools take, I would say a lot of times we think of it as the opportunity for the particular gender or community, but I would rather say, no, it's an opportunity for the program to be better, because you are bringing this diverse set of people, diverse set of thinking, diverse set of backgrounds. And when they come together, the program becomes much more enriched. There's a similar set of high achievers coming together for one thing, right? So these three lessons I would say I would love to share, because they were interesting to me.
Yes, I think I think it's really great that you find such small I think this is the benefit of traveling. I think when you travel, you come through so many different experiences. It makes you better as a person, and it gives you a lot of life lessons as well. And when we talk of domestic options, my next question is to Shreya, and we'll make it really quick because I can see timer running. So, and I'm sure, Shreya, this question must have been asked to you by by our parents, by the aunties, by your batchmates, and everyone. I'm really sure this is a very common question, but I would like to ask you. So, you did your masters from France. You're doing your PhD from Japan. So, just want to know that the obvious thing that comes in mind is that one of the obvious options that comes in mind is that let's go to some foreign university and have and have certain education. So is it because of lack of domestic options, or is it because of lack of awareness? What do you think it is that we don't opt for it, or maybe people are opting for it and you thought I need to go outside? So how do you think is the scenario over there, and how it can be made better if there's a possibility over there?
Yeah, so when I started out, definitely it was lack of awareness for me. I did not have much information about the Indian universities that were specializing in space courses, maybe a few IITs, but even then they had stringent requirements that you should have an aerospace background or something like that. So yeah, but during my bachelor's in at NIT, I had a internship at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, and that's where I met a lot of people who were actually working in this field, and I realized that all of them had a degree from abroad, and I thought, okay, that's the way to go. So I'll get a degree and then come back to India and work. So basically, it's also a lot of universities in India, they just do their research on their own. They are living in a bubble, and they are like, they don't invest a lot in promotion of science or promotion of their work, and the younger generation don't really know what they're doing. So yeah, so I was pretty much unaware, and also lack of options. And universities in India, they also don't really have a proper research framework. They are more interested in like getting job placements and getting a job after graduation. And I did not to sit for a job. I knew that I wanted to go for research. So yeah, these were like some of the reasons why I decided to study abroad. I think there are various ways in which this can be improved. It can be made better. Like the university should have more options of research in different fields, not just space, but any fundamental research, and should prioritize like research as much as they prioritize the getting jobs after graduation. And also research institutes like ISRO or DRDO or CSRI, these institutes should also like promote their work, what they are doing. None of us know what they are doing until it comes out in a research paper, and not everyone reads a research paper. So to reach out to the younger generation and to inspire them, it's very important for like use the social media or use internet, different platforms to basically promote the scientific mindset and scientific temperament among the generation.
It looks like Mamta dropped off.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we can continue the conversation on the lines on which we are going. Completely agree with you, Shreya, there that a scientific temperament is very much essential, especially if we want the next generation to progress. And the fields like AI and all, where a lot of research is happening in various other countries. If we lack, the thing, and if we stay behind, definitely in every aspect, the country is going to fall behind other countries. So for sure, completely agree with you, Shreya, and definitely love the initiatives that you are running. So I think we can go back to the topic about how yeah, we have Mamta here. Cool. We can take it back. Yeah.
My laptop, I need to buy a new one. Anyway, so
No worries.
I hope Shreya has answered, and I missed the nice answer. I was willing to ask this question since 6-7 years, and now when I get to have an answer, I was gone. Anyways, I'll talk to her later on. So you gave the answer, Shreya, or we are still.
Yes, I did.
Damn. Shit. Anyway, so thanks a lot. Actually, we have one question in the chat as well, and that's what that was my last question as well. So how do you what is the vision that you guys are having, personally as well as professionally, as well as with your startup and with the initiative that you're doing? What is the vision, and how do you improve the how do you visualize to improve the education that we have from one or the other perspective? So let's have a quick 1 minute answer on that, because we are already running out of time. So Ritika, let's start with you.
Yeah, so if I say about the vision for Freebirds, I would say one of the most important aspects is that every learner is on the driver's seat of their own learning. So that's one of the things we want to do through the platform. So perhaps if, say, Mamta wants to ask this question to Shreya, she can actually find Shreya on the platform, connect with her, ask it, and maybe whenever Shreya comes to India and she has some free time, she can schedule one session on how to be a PhD scholar with people, and people can join her and sit at a cafe and learn from her. So this is probably one of the aspects, and we are designing it through AI so that people can actually find those things, and the platform actually rewards learning in a certain way so that you are actually enthusiastic to do it. In terms of the vision for the overall EdTech marketplace or overall EdTech category, I would say that it's going to be much more student-centric. Personalized learning journeys are going to be way more important. And I think multidisciplinary learning is something that is going to be the way forward for everybody.
Okay, thanks a lot. Meeta.
Yeah, sure. So I completely agree with Ritika there. Definitely, the whole online paradigm has opened many opportunities when it comes to education sector. For sure, I mean, I'm a mother myself, and I have lived in small places, and I see the challenge that parents face in the remotest part of India. When we are geographically constrained, and we definitely feel that the quality of education is not as much as what we would have liked, then this education going online has definitely opened opportunities for parents to also engage with educators from anywhere, and also take as much benefit as possible. And on the same lines, we have also helped the women teachers who were there on our platform and launched a education platform called Learn.win, where these women teachers can teach from wherever they are, and the parents can engage with them for personalized tuitions for their school students.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Shreya.
Yeah, so I think even now the Indian education system is still conservative. So I would like echo the same thing as Ritika mentioned. Multidisciplinary is very important, and like in India, they still think if you are doing electrical engineering, you can only work in power grids. That's not true. The learning process is continuous, and as you grow, you develop lots of skills and you change your field. So that's how it works in most European countries. You can always change your field from business to arts, or from economics to engineering. It's very easy. So I hope, like with the introduction of the new national education policy last year, I hope it will. The educationalists and the universities, they will be more open to multidisciplinary education and having interdisciplinary people in a single team to solve a single problem. So because then you get a lot of diverse solutions to solve a problem. And definitely, I think there's like lack of practical education, such as doing experiments or laboratory activities. We know how our lab sessions are in our colleges. So I want to work in that sector, especially for space and robotics. So like introduce more of AI and interactive classes, and also do some practical sessions with the students so that they learn by doing experiments, and they learn the concepts that are behind these physics, space and robotics. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. I must say it was an amazing interaction I have had, and thanks a lot all for joining and taking out time from your busy schedule. So I hope we get to have more such interactions. I hope IHI happens twice in a year so that we can have it more often. Thanks a lot for joining, and it was really an amazing conversation. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you so much. I learned so much, Ritika and Meeta. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Mamta.
you so much. It was great interacting with everyone.